What's the most shocking lie you accidentally exposed? I lived next to her for over 6 years. We'd wave, chat about the weather, even feed each other's pets. Then one afternoon, a letter arrived, addressed to me, but with her handwriting. And inside was something I wasn't supposed to see. It was a Tuesday, late September. I remember because I had just gotten back from the DMV, irritated as hell and starving. The envelope was slid partway under my door. No stamp, no return address. Just my name, full name, in handwriting I'd seen on birthday cards and Christmas labels from her countless times. Mrs. Langford, Eleanor, but I never called her that. Just Miss Langford. She was in her mid-60s, alone, a retired librarian, soft-spoken but sharp. The kind of neighbor you quietly hope for in a world full of barking dogs and passive-aggressive notes about recycling bins. I assumed it was a note about the gutters or maybe the stray cat we'd both been feeding. But when I opened it, my skin did that thing. That cold prickle thing, like when you almost drop your phone off a balcony. The letter was short, 7 lines. It said, "He's buried beneath the red floorboard. You'll know which one. I'm tired. I'm ready to go now. Don't forgive me. Just make sure he's remembered." No signature. No explanation. Just that. I stood there, staring at the letter while my frozen lasagna beeped in the microwave. I reread it maybe 5 times, feeling that quiet paranoia that creeps in when you don't yet know if you're being pranked. Or if reality just tilted slightly and nobody else noticed. I walked over to her unit. 5B. I knocked. Nothing. Knocked again. Then pressed my ear to the door. Silence. I went back to my place, unsure what to do. Called my friend Alex. He lives 2 states over, but he's the kind of guy you call for weird stuff, because he collects weirdness like other people collect sneakers or vintage vinyl. I read him the letter. There was a long pause. Then he said, "Do you think she's dead?" That hadn't crossed my mind, not fully, until that second. I told him I'd go check on her in the morning. I didn't sleep well that night. The letter sat on my kitchen table like it was humming, alive with something. I kept getting up to reread it. By 3:00 a.m., I'd convinced myself I'd imagined it, that it said something different, less dark. But every time I looked, it was the same. At 8:17 the next morning, I knocked again. Still nothing. I pressed my ear to the door again, heard a low, steady electrical hum, fridge, maybe, and then a sharp, dry cough. I didn't want to invade her privacy. But that letter. I knocked louder. Still no answer. Then I called our building manager, Travis. Told him she might be unwell. We waited outside her door. Travis fiddled with the lock, got it open, and called out her name. She was sitting in the chair by the window. Motionless. Eyes open. Pale, but alive. Her mouth moved when we stepped in, just barely. Travis stepped closer. "Miss Langford, you okay?" Her lips moved again. I leaned in. She whispered, "Don't open it yet. Not yet. You'll know." She didn't say another word. Paramedics came. I told them I found a strange note, didn't mention the contents. They took her to the hospital. She never returned. She died 2 days later. Stroke, they said. Quiet, peaceful, no family. Just me and the super to clear out her stuff a week later. I kept thinking about the letter. "He's buried beneath the red floorboard." Her apartment was small, L-shaped. A reading nook, kitchenette, old green carpet except for one area, her hallway, which had reddish wooden floorboards. There were 3 loose ones I remembered from helping her move a bookcase once. I went back there alone a few days after the hospital took her away. Travis had given me a key to help with sorting out her books for donation. I waited until nearly midnight. I told myself I'd just look. Just peek. I brought a flashlight and a screwdriver. The boards weren't nailed down tightly. The third one, the one nearest the wall, lifted easily. Underneath was a layer of dust. Some old newspaper scraps, and something wrapped in plastic and tied with twine. Small, about the size of a lunchbox. My heart was hammering. I reached for it, but then, and I swear I wouldn't have believed this if I hadn't felt it, I heard a knock. Not from the door, from beneath the floor, just a single, soft knock. Not wood on wood. It sounded hollow, damp, not recent. I pulled my hand back. Sat frozen for maybe 5 minutes. The knock didn't repeat. The silence in that room was massive. I left the floorboard open, backed away, and left the apartment. That night, I couldn't sleep. My rational mind said it was a pipe, an old vent, maybe rats. But I'd lived in that building for nearly 7 years. It had never made that sound before. Not once. 2 days later, I came back with Alex. I hadn't told him everything. Just said I needed his help with something. We opened the board again. The plastic-wrapped object was still there. We unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a shoebox. Inside the shoebox was a smaller box, lacquered, hand-carved, deep red wood. Locked. No key. We shook it gently. No sound. But beneath it, folded up in a brittle envelope, was a single photograph. Black and white. Faded. A boy of about 11, standing next to a much younger Eleanor Langford. They were outside a house. Not this one, something rural. You could tell by the field behind them. The boy had a strange expression. Half a smile. And his left arm, it wasn't visible. Almost like it had been deliberately torn from the photo. On the back of the photo, in the same handwriting as the letter, was a date, August 13, 1958. And one word, brother. Alex stared at the box. You gonna try to open it? I didn't, not then. Something about it felt wrong. Heavy. We reburied the box and replaced the board. I still have the letter. Still have the photo. That was over a year ago. 3 weeks back, a young couple moved into 5B. They knocked on my door last week, asking if I'd heard anything about that weird hollow sound in their hallway at night. I played dumb. They said it only happens around 3:00 a.m. Just once. Every night. A soft knock, under the floor. I didn't say anything to them. What could I have said? Oh, yeah, that's probably Miss Langford's dead brother, whose body might be under your feet in a red box. I just smiled, gave them some fake neighborly line about old pipes and dry wood shift. The guy nodded, clearly unconvinced. The girl just stared past me into my apartment like she wanted to ask something else. But didn't. After they left, I stood behind my door, unmoving, heart pounding. I knew that knock wasn't pipes. I'd known it since the first time I heard it. And now, someone else had heard it too. It wasn't just me anymore. That night, I sat in the dark of my apartment with the lights off. I didn't mean to stay up until 3:00 a.m., but I did. Part of me wanted to see if it happened again, to them, to me, to the building. I didn't hear anything through the walls. But at 3:04, just as I was about to go to bed, my hallway light flickered, just once. Now, here's something I haven't told anyone. I had that light fixture replaced last year, when it started buzzing during storms. I was standing under it, just watching the filament pulse faintly behind the frosted glass. Then the bulb popped. Not exploded, not loud. Just that tiny snap of a vacuum breaking. The hallway went dark. I stood there for at least 10 minutes before I moved. The next morning, I went back to the floorboards. Alone. No box. Just the dust, the old air, the faint trace of something bitter in the wood, like old copper or dried blood. The photograph was gone too. No trace of it, even though I was sure I'd left it in a sealed envelope under the same board. I checked the other floorboards, every crevice of that hallway. Nothing. The red board didn't even feel loose anymore. It was firm, like it had never been lifted. Something had changed. I didn't tell Alex. Didn't want to sound like I was losing it. But that week, things started happening. Little things, mostly. My coffee machine would turn itself on in the middle of the night. I'd wake up and smell it brewing, even though the pot was dry. My cat, who never made a sound, began yowling at the shared wall between my apartment and 5B. Always around 3:00 a.m. she'd sit there, unmoving, staring at nothing, tail wrapped tight around her feet. Then I got a letter. Again. Same handwriting. Same envelope. No stamp. Just slid under my door while I was in the shower. It said, "Not yet. You looked too soon." He remembers. No signature. Nothing else. Just that. My blood went cold. I hadn't told anyone about what I saw under the floor. Not even Alex knew about the locked box. And now, it wasn't just someone warning me, it was someone who knew I had disturbed something. Something that remembered. That day, I went to the town clerk's office. I had to know more about her. Eleanor Langford had lived in 5B since 1972. Before that, she'd lived in Vermont. In a farmhouse inherited from her father. I requested property records. There was a fire in 1963, apparently. No official deaths recorded, but the property was sold the following year to a development company. She moved shortly after. The local paper had one clipping from that time, barely legible. The headline was, "Boy missing after barn collapse, no body found." No name. But the photo that came with it, grainy, barely clear, showed the same house as in the photograph from the box. I started having dreams. Every night, the same field. A house without windows. Someone calling my name from under the floor, but not like a voice, more like a thought pressed into my brain. Like a pressure. On the fourth night, I dreamt I was standing in Miss Langford's hallway again. The floor was glowing red, pulsing. A child's voice whispered from the boards, "You opened it. Now remember me." When I woke up, my fingernails were caked with dirt. Real dirt, like I'd been digging. That morning, the couple from 5B moved out. No warning, just gone. Their moving truck was idling by 8:00 a.m. I saw the guy loading boxes with this look on his face, not fear exactly, but this brittle numbness. Like he hadn't slept in days. When I asked if everything was okay, he said, "Something's wrong with this place. Something's in the walls." They didn't leave a forwarding address. I decided I had to go back in. The building manager was hesitant. "They left it in good condition." He said, "Why do you want in?" I said I thought I'd left something behind during the clear out. He tossed me the key and said, "Just don't break anything." That was 5 days ago. I've been in there every night since, trying to figure out what I saw, what I opened, what it means. The red board is solid now. Unmoving, like it's part of the foundation. But the knocking hasn't stopped. And last night, I found something new. A slip of paper under my pillow, written in that same cursive. "You're looking in the wrong place. He's not beneath. He's inside." I haven't slept since. I don't remember falling asleep, but when I woke up, I was sitting in the reading chair by the window of 5B. That's not where I'd gone to bed. I'd crashed on my couch after rechecking every drawer, vent, and floorboard. But I woke up in her chair, the same one where Eleanor had been found, motionless and whispering that first day. The cushion still smelled faintly of lavender and old paper. The air was colder than it should have been for May. I looked around, disoriented. My shoes were by the door, neatly placed side by side. I never do that. A faint scrape pulled my attention. The lacquered red box, the one that had vanished, was sitting on the floor near the hallway. Perfectly centered, undisturbed, closed. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. It wasn't possible. I had buried it again. Then it was gone. Now it was back. I didn't touch it for hours. Just sat, stared, waited for something, a sound, a shift in the air. A knock, but nothing happened. Finally, just before dawn, I picked it up. Still locked. Still no sound when shaken. But now it was warm to the touch. Not just room temperature, warm, like it had been sitting in sunlight. And on the bottom, something had changed. A name had been etched in tiny, perfect cursive, Caleb T. Langford. Langford, her brother? I took it back to my apartment, but it didn't feel right having it there. The second I crossed the threshold, my hallway light flickered again. The air pressure in the apartment shifted, like when a storm's coming. I set the box on the kitchen table and backed away. It stayed there for 2 days. Unopened, unmoving, but I could feel it. Like it was watching me. Or waiting. I stopped using the kitchen entirely. Ordered takeout. Ate on the balcony. That second night, my apartment door was unlocked when I came home. No sign of forced entry. Nothing taken. Nothing out of place, except the box, which had moved from the table to my hallway. Directly above the shared wall with 5B. That's when I called Alex again. I told him everything this time. The letters, the dreams, the box, the photo, the scratches on my windowsill, the strange footprints on the carpet, small, barefoot, child-sized. The way the red floorboard had changed. The way my cat refused to enter the hallway now, staring into it like it was a black void. He drove out the next day. When he saw the box, he didn't touch it. Just stood over it, arms crossed. "You sure you want to keep this here?" he asked. "It's not just wood and lacquer, man. This thing's carrying something." He brought a digital recorder, EMF reader, all the ghost hunting gear he'd accumulated over the years. Not because he believed in ghosts, but because he believed we don't know everything. That night, we left the recorder running and locked ourselves in my bedroom. Didn't sleep, just lay in the dark listening. At 3:07 a.m., the box slid 6 inches across the floor. We didn't see it happen. But the recorder caught it. That sharp scrape of wood on laminate, followed by 3 soft taps. Then silence. When we checked the hallway in the morning, the box was sitting flush against my front door. Inside the box was a single item, a key. Small, iron, old. And taped to the bottom was a note, same handwriting as the letters. "For the trunk in the attic. Don't go alone. My building doesn't have an attic. But Miss Langford's old property did." I had the address. I'd seen it in the property records from the town clerk's office, a rural farmhouse. Long since sold, now owned by a distant relative of someone I'd never met. According to the last tax entry, it was unoccupied. Overgrown. Abandoned. We drove there the next morning. 5 hours north. Dirt road. No cell service. The place looked like it hadn't been lived in since the 70s, a collapsed porch, ivy strangling the side, windows shattered or boarded up. But the structure was intact. The key felt heavier in my pocket as we walked through the front door. Inside, the dust was thick. Undisturbed. Wallpaper peeled like skin. Rotting wood groaned beneath our feet. We found the attic stairs behind a sealed closet, the hinges rusted but intact. We climbed up into the narrow space, flashlights sweeping over piles of forgotten boxes, an old sewing machine, and finally, in the far corner, a trunk. Red. Same lacquer. Same carvings. It looked identical to the box. The key fit. Inside was nothing but folded cloth, yellowed and brittle, and beneath that, another letter. And a photo. This one was torn down the middle. On the back, this was the day it started. The letter was longer than the others. Written in shaky hand. Dated 1994. It said, Caleb changed after the fire. Not just how he looked, but how he watched. He didn't blink as much. He spoke less. He'd appear in rooms we hadn't seen him enter. At night, he'd whisper things in his sleep that weren't in his voice. Father said we should keep it quiet. Mother was afraid of him. One night, we woke to her screaming, and she was gone the next morning. No explanation, just gone. Caleb said she left, but I found her ring in the stove ashes. I locked the thing away in him, I think. Or it locked him away in it. I don't know. The red box is the anchor. It holds the remembering. That's why he knocks. That's why you dream. You opened it too soon. You let him see you. If you find this, I'm sorry. You're part of it now. Alex read it twice, then said, I think we need to go. We took nothing. Left the letter and the photo. Locked the trunk. The drive back was dead silent. That was 3 nights ago. Since then, 3 new letters have arrived. No envelopes. Just folded pages, slid under my door each night. The first, he's not done. The second, remembering is how he feeds. The third, you're next. My hallway light stays on now. I don't sleep. I moved the box outside, left it in the alley. This morning, it was back on my kitchen table. I didn't touch the box when I found it back on my kitchen table. I just stood there, watching the morning sun creep slowly across the floor like it was scared to get near it. I thought about burning it, or dropping it in the river, or locking it in a storage unit somewhere off the grid. But something told me it wouldn't matter. Wherever I put it, it would find a way back. I started taping over the peephole on my door. Started stacking salt at the threshold, even though I didn't believe in that stuff. I started locking the windows, not for people, but because I kept finding them open. Just a few inches, in the early morning. And I live on the 3rd floor. That week, I didn't hear from Alex. I called, texted, even reached out to his sister. She hadn't heard from him either. That's not like him. Then, Saturday night, my intercom buzzed at 2:46 a.m. I never give out the buzzer code. It's been broken for years. The only people who've ever used it are delivery drivers, and they sure as hell don't come at 3 in the morning. I sat up in bed, fully awake before my eyes were even open. Buzz, 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 3 times, sharp, intentional. I didn't answer, just sat in the dark, barely breathing, the box on my kitchen table glowing faintly in the streetlight from the window. The buzzing stopped, and then came the knock. Not at the front door. Inside, a single knock, dull, soft, from the wall between my living room and the empty 5B. I knew what it was. Or who it was. I slept with the lights on again that night. In the morning, there was another note under my pillow, which, again, I didn't place there. This one said, you need to see what's behind the mirror. That was it. I checked every mirror in the apartment. Nothing. Except, I had an old one in the hallway, the kind that came with the building. Bolted to the wall, rectangular, with a cracked corner I'd stopped noticing years ago. It was screwed in tightly. But I pried it off the wall. Behind it was a hole. Not big, maybe the size of a shoebox, but just large enough to hold something. And inside, wrapped in what looked like faded blue flannel, was a journal. The first page had the name E.L. written in pencil. Eleanor Langford. It wasn't a full diary, not like a day-to-day one. It was more like scattered entries, thoughts, fragments. Some pages were written clearly, others looked like they were scrawled in complete panic, as if she was trying to write them without being caught. Some parts were even scratched out so aggressively the paper had torn. I'll share what I could read. April 17, 1981. He's in the walls again. I hear him behind the panels, the same whisper over and over, do you remember me? I tried sealing the vent in the hallway. It didn't help. He always finds a way through. October 3, 1985. The knock came again at 3:12. Always 3. That's when he died. Or, was taken. I don't know which anymore. Sometimes I think I see him standing in the mirror behind me, but when I turn, there's no one. June 5, 1987. I saw him outside today. He looked older. He's aging with me, but he's not alive. I don't think he breathes. August 13, 1991. I buried the first box. But he made another. He always makes another. It's how he remembers. Each one has a piece of him. That phrase again. It's how he remembers. The more I read, the more I felt like I wasn't alone in the apartment. Like someone was watching over my shoulder, breathing softly, not with menace, just with patience. Like I was getting close to something. There were 2 blank pages at the end. But I noticed a small smudge in the corner, like someone had started to write and stopped. I rubbed the corner gently, and faint graphite marks started to appear under the light. I shaded them in with a pencil. A message, barely visible. He's behind the black wall. I didn't know what that meant at first. Until I remembered something strange about 5B. When I first helped Miss Langford rearrange her furniture years ago, she mentioned that there had once been a door in the hallway. A closet door that was sealed off when they did the renovations. She'd pointed to it, a section of wall that was painted just slightly darker than the rest. I didn't think anything of it at the time. But now I couldn't stop thinking about it. That night, I broke into 5B again. I told myself it wasn't breaking in if nobody lived there and I had a key. The hallway was cold, dead quiet. My flashlight beam shook slightly in my hand. I found the wall, the one that used to be a door. Painted over, yes, but beneath the paint, the outline of a frame was still visible. I knocked once. Hollow. I tapped along the bottom. Still hollow. I got to work. It took about 2 hours with a crowbar and a hammer. I worked in silence, every bang of metal on wood echoing down the halls like a warning. Behind the dry wall was, indeed, a door. A real one. Old, warped slightly from time. But locked. The key from the box fit. It turned with a slow, grinding resistance. The door creaked open into pitch blackness. I aimed the flashlight. Stairs. Old, narrow stairs leading downward. But there shouldn't have been a basement beneath that part of the building. Our laundry and storage were under the opposite wing. But the stairs were there. And they led somewhere. I stepped inside. The air changed immediately. Damp, but also still, like it had been sealed for decades. Dust danced in the flashlight beam like falling ash. The stairs creaked, but held. At the bottom was a door. No handle, just a push plate. I hesitated. Then I pushed. The room was circular. Small. Maybe 8 feet across. Concrete walls stained with water and time. And in the center, sitting atop a low pedestal, was another box. This one was different. Not red. Not lacquered. It was black. Matte. Seamless. And there was no lid. It was open. Empty. But as I stepped closer, I realized there were scratches all along the inside, desperate, frenzied scratches. Like fingernails. And the concrete around the pedestal was scorched in a perfect circle. I don't remember getting back to my apartment. I just remember waking up, with the black box now sitting on my hallway floor, open and empty. And one more note, slid beneath my door. He remembers you now. I started to notice things changing in my reflection. Not all at once. Subtle at first. Too subtle to be sure it wasn't just exhaustion, bad lighting, or the tricks of a mind that hadn't had a full night's sleep in weeks. But it was there. My left eye twitched more than usual. My skin looked slightly off. Like it wasn't tracking with the movement of my body at normal speed. Like the reflection was hesitating. Half a second too slow. One morning, brushing my teeth, I saw my mouth move in the mirror a full second after I'd stopped chewing. I froze, toothbrush midair. My reflection didn't. It smiled. That was the last time I looked in a mirror. I covered all of them. Bathroom, bedroom, even the shiny metal on my microwave and the black screen of my TV. Anything that could give him a window. Because by now I was sure, Caleb, or whatever wore the name Caleb Langford, had found a way to climb out of the remembering. And he was using me to do it. That day, I drove back to the farmhouse. Alone. The drive was a blur. I barely remember the road. I remember the sun not rising until I passed the town line, though it should have been light hours before. I remember every radio station cutting out into static, then soft whispering, then silence. When I arrived, the house looked more decayed than before. The porch had fully collapsed. One of the windows upstairs was missing entirely. But the attic window? Still there, and someone was standing behind it. I didn't get out of the car. I just sat there, breathing hard, watching that dark silhouette stand motionless behind the old glass. Not moving, not blinking. It stayed like that for a full 10 minutes. Then it vanished, just faded backward into the dark. I didn't go inside. Instead, I drove to the county recorder's office. I needed more. A name, a date, something real I could pin this to. The Langford family, it turned out, had records going back to 1892. One page, dusty, folded into the wrong folder, showed a death certificate for a Caleb Thomas Langford. Age 11. Date of death, August 13, 1958. Same date on the back of the photo. Same date that kept appearing in Eleanor's journal. But the cause of death? Declared missing. Presumed drowned in well. No body ever recovered. I asked the clerk if the Langford property had a well. She nodded. Old one. Covered now. Unsafe. Was on the eastern field. Way back, past the pines. I drove back to the farmhouse, parked on the shoulder, and followed the edge of the overgrown yard toward the tree line. The grass got thicker, thornier. The pines loomed taller than I remembered from the photo. The air felt heavier out there, like it didn't move quite right. After 20 minutes of searching, I found it. The well, covered in a rusted metal sheet, weighed down with cinder blocks. Scratched into the surface of that metal were words, long faded but still legible in the right light. Don't open. He's not asleep. The cinder blocks were old, but the metal? Newer. I checked the edges. Welded in spots. Someone had tried hard to seal this thing. But that's not what scared me. What scared me was the scrape marks from underneath. Dozens of them. Fresh. Something had been trying to push the cover off from below. I backed away. Slowly. Step by step. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I just walked until I was back at my car, keys in hand, driving with no direction. I ended up at a gas station 40 miles away, hands shaking so bad I couldn't hold my credit card. That night, I slept in a motel. A real dive. No windows, just that humming yellow light from the bulb above the door and stains in every corner. At 3:13 a.m., the knock came again. But this time, it wasn't from beneath the floor. It was from under the bed. 3 soft taps. Hollow. Familiar. I didn't look. I didn't breathe. I just lay there, heart thudding like thunder in my chest, until the sun came up. When I dared look, nothing was there. Except a new note, slipped into my backpack, which I kept zipped and locked at all times. You brought him with you. I left the motel before checkout. Drove back to the city. Back to my building. But something had shifted. My apartment was cold. Wrong. Like it didn't belong to me anymore. The salt lines I had laid weeks ago were disturbed, from the inside. My cat was missing. Her collar was in the sink. And on my wall, written in faint, black ash, were the words. Open the black box. I hadn't touched it since I found it. But now, there was no lid to open. It had disappeared again. Only now, I realized, maybe I was the box. Maybe whatever this was, Caleb, or the thing that came back in his shape, was using me the way he used Eleanor. As an anchor. A vessel. A place to store memory. Pain. Grief. Hate. Because that's what he fed on. Remembering. That night, I had the worst dream yet. In it, I was standing in Eleanor's hallway again. Everything was dark. Water dripped somewhere. The red floorboard was gone. Just an open pit. I stepped forward, flashlight flickering. And heard something breathe below. Not human. Not animal. Something ancient. Slow. Patient. And it spoke. Not aloud. But in my head, the way thunder rolls through your chest before you hear it. You remember now. So do I. I woke up screaming. My neighbors banged on the walls. I moved out the next morning. Packed only the essentials. Left the furniture, the dishes, the photos. But I took the journal. And the letters. And the box. Which I found, waiting in my trunk, before I'd even finished loading the car. I moved 2 states over. New number. New job. I don't talk to Alex anymore. He never returned my calls. I think something happened to him, but I'm too afraid to find out. And the knock? It follows me. Everywhere. Hotels. Apartments. Once even in a public restroom. 3:13 a.m. Always 3 taps. The remembering never stops. And last night, I found a photo slipped under my door. Black and white. Slightly blurred. It was me, standing in my hallway. Only my eyes, they weren't mine anymore. They were his. I stopped counting the nights I woke up at 3:13 a.m. It didn't matter where I slept. A basement Airbnb in Wisconsin, a roadside motel in Oregon, a stranger's couch in Missouri. The knock would come. Always 3 soft taps. Sometimes from beneath the floor. Sometimes from the mirror. Once, in a place that had no walls at all, just canvas and dirt, the knock came from inside my pillow. I tried to ignore it. Tried to live normally. For a while, it even seemed to work. I got a job at a bookstore in a quiet college town. No questions asked. I started walking to work, drinking tea, feeding birds in the park. I kept my apartment mirrorless. No photos, no memories, no remembering, and it helped, for maybe 3 months. Until, one morning, a package arrived at the store. No return address, just my full name on the box, written in thick black ink I didn't recognize. My hands went cold. I waited until closing to open it. My manager joked that it looked like a bomb. I laughed along with him, but my stomach was a knot of ice. Inside was a single cassette tape. No label, no instructions, just the old, plasticky smell of something that hadn't seen daylight in decades. We didn't even have a tape player at the store. I found one at a thrift shop 2 towns over. Drove there with the box seat belted into the passenger seat like it could escape. I waited until 2:50 a.m. to press play. Something told me that if it was going to speak, it would speak then. The tape crackled to life. At first, just static. Then silence. Then a voice. Mine. He's inside now. I opened it. I saw him. Click. Static again. Then a second voice. Not mine. Do you remember the well? Click. She left the ring in the stove. Click. You brought me here. You carry the box now. Click. Then, silence. And finally, a soft knock. 3 times. From inside the tape player. I threw it out the window. It shattered on the sidewalk like dry bone. But when I came home the next day, the tape was sitting on my bed. No case, no note, just the tape, perfectly rewound. I burned it that night in a metal trash barrel behind the building. The flame sputtered like it didn't want to touch it, like the fire itself was afraid. It finally caught, and I stayed until only melted plastic and black ash remained. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. A week later, I lost time. Not hours. Days. I remember going to sleep Thursday night, the smell of pine outside my window. I remember locking the door. I woke up in a hospital bed. They said I'd been found standing on the edge of a quarry an hour north, barefoot, dehydrated, eyes wide open, not speaking. I'd been missing for 72 hours. My phone was in my pocket, powered off. My wallet was gone, but in my other hand, clenched so tightly the skin had broken, was a scrap of paper. Hospital staff said it took an hour to get it from me. I refused to let it go even unconscious. They gave it to me after I was discharged. It was written in the same handwriting as all the notes. But this one was different. This one was in my own blood. You are the box. I moved again, changed my name, paid cash only, rented a cabin near the Canadian border, no neighbors for miles. And for the first time in years, the knock didn't come. Not once, not for days, but then, the dreams returned. Not full dreams, more like memories that weren't mine. A boy screaming in a burning barn. A woman dragging a body across a floor. Whispering I'm sorry again and again. A well filled with black water that whispered like it was breathing. A red box in a cold room, waiting to be opened. And then, worse, people I know, or used to know, showing up in the dreams, whispering that they'd forgotten too much, and that's what let him in. That's what remembering meant. It wasn't about memory. It was about making space, carving out enough room inside your mind for something else to move in. And I had made more space than most. I stopped sleeping again. Then, the photo came. Left in my mailbox. No return address. It was the Langford house, burned to its foundation. The frame half collapsed. Ash everywhere. But in the photo's bottom right corner, almost hidden in the char, a figure. Small, child-sized, standing upright. And its face? It had my eyes. Not my face. Just the eyes. The same eyes I'd seen in the mirror months ago. The same smile, a second too late. The back of the photo read, "You left the door open. I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know what's mine. But I've started keeping a journal, not because I think it will help, but because I need some way to track which memories are mine and which are not." Each morning, I wake up and check my skin. My hands. My voice. Sometimes I see it. Small signs that something is pushing through. A bruise on my neck in the shape of a hand. A faint outline of another face in the fog of the bathroom mirror before I remembered to cover it again. And sometimes, I forget things. Entire conversations. Meals I didn't eat. People I never met who remember me clearly. Alex is still missing. His apartment was cleared out 2 months ago. Landlord said he left a mess, old photos, hand-drawn diagrams of the Langford house, scrawled notes about wells, boxes, timelines. He'd carved something into the kitchen counter before he disappeared. You opened it, now you remember. I still don't know if that means he lost himself. Or if something else did the remembering for him. It started raining 3 nights ago and hasn't stopped since. Not normal rain, not the kind that comes and goes or rolls in with thunder. This is quiet rain, constant, steady, almost artificial, like background noise someone left on loop. At first, I thought it was the cabin's old roof picking up more than usual. But then I realized something strange. There were no clouds. I looked outside and the sky was clear. Black and starless, but no movement. No wind, just rain, falling straight down. Soft and even, from a sky that wasn't giving it permission. And the ground didn't get wet. That's when I knew it wasn't real. Or rather, it wasn't weather. The knocks didn't come that night. Instead, at 3:13 a.m., the doorknob turned. Not fast, not like someone trying to force their way in. It turned slowly, methodically, until it reached the limit. Then held. I could hear the faint click of tension in the lock, like someone was testing it from the other side. Waiting. I didn't move. I just stood in the hallway with my back against the far wall, flashlight off, phone camera aimed at the door. After a full minute, it stopped. But I didn't sleep. I spent the night rereading the journal. Eleanor's words are becoming clearer now. I don't know if that's because I've read them so many times or because something is helping me understand them more deeply. Some entries I'd previously skipped or thought were ruined. February 2, 1995. It's no longer just him. There's something behind him now. Something that's using him the same way he used me. I feel it in the walls, when the rain starts, when the clocks stop, when the knocks don't come. That's when it's closest. Caleb was the first door. I was the second. But doors don't stay closed forever. I read that line over and over. Caleb was the first door. And then I thought back to something I hadn't let myself dwell on. The black box had no lid when I found it. What if that wasn't a mistake? What if it was never meant to be closed again? I started hearing voices, faint, like a neighbor's radio turned too low, always on the edge of understanding. Not words exactly, more like suggestions pressed into the atmosphere. Ideas that weren't mine suddenly seeming like memories. Whispers that stopped the moment I tried to really hear them. The sound of the rain has changed, too. It has rhythm now. Like it's not falling, but pacing. And sometimes I swear I see the water running up the windows, like it's trying to get back in. Then last night, the power cut out. Total blackness. I lit a candle and sat by the wood stove. I knew it would come again, whether the knock, or the box, or something worse. But instead, something else happened. There was a second me in the room. I saw him, out of the corner of my eye at first, standing just outside the glow of the candlelight, near the mirror I'd long since covered with a sheet. I turned, slowly, and the sheet was gone. He was me, but not. He stood slightly slouched, his face twitching, blinking too much. The eyes were wrong, flat, gray, endlessly deep like holes punched through paper. He said nothing, just watched me. Then he smiled. That delayed smile, the one I'd seen in the mirror months ago. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I just stared back, gripping the edge of the table until my fingers went white. Then he said, very softly, "She lied to you. He was never buried. He was invited." I blinked, and he was gone. No sound, no shift in the room. Nothing, just me again. The mirror bare, the sheet folded neatly on the floor beside it. That was the moment I decided to go back to where it started. Not the Langford house, not the attic, not the well, the floorboard. I drove all night, back to the city, back to the old building, back to 5B. The manager was new, young guy, probably no idea what this place had seen. I told him I used to live next door, that I'd left something behind. Gave him cash. He gave me a key. The apartment was empty, cold, abandoned feeling, even with clean carpets and freshly painted walls. But that hallway, that one stretch of red wood, hadn't changed. I stepped on the third board. Loose. Again. Like it had been waiting. I pried it up with a key. Beneath it, the dust was gone. The space was clean, almost sterilized, and sitting perfectly centered in that hollow was a single item. Not a box this time. A mirror. Small, round, ornate silver frame, tarnished black around the edges. I hadn't seen it before. Not in any of the dreams, not in the journals, not in the stories Eleanor left behind. It was facing down. When I picked it up and turned it over, I didn't see myself. I saw Eleanor, younger, crying, kneeling beside a figure I couldn't fully make out. And behind her, something else. A shape, vague, taller than a man, made of shadow, but with hands. Its hands rested on her shoulders. She wasn't resisting. She was nodding. And then her lips moved. I couldn't hear what she said. It was just a mirror, after all, but I knew the words. They hit the inside of my skull like they'd been carved there long ago. I remember you. That's when the glass cracked. Right down the middle. My reflection came back, but it wasn't me. It was him again. Caleb, but older now, wearing my face, and smiling. I left the apartment, threw the mirror into the river that night, watched it sink without a sound. But the crack is still there. Not in the glass, not in any object, in me. Every time I close my eyes now, I see the attic. The black box. The words, "You are the door." And last night, I woke up with a new scar on my arm. 3 perfect lines. Deep, fresh, still red. Beneath them, written in fading ink, one more to open. I don't know what it means. I don't know who, or what, the next door will be. But I'm starting to forget things. My apartment's layout changes sometimes. I find books I've never read with notes in my handwriting. Receipts from places I've never been. And sometimes, when I look in the mirror, just for a moment, I see Eleanor standing behind me. Whispering something. Always the same thing. You opened it, now close it. But I don't know how. Or worse, I don't think I can. Because some doors don't open from the outside. Some are opened from within. It's quiet now. No more knocks. No more letters. No more dreams. But I know that doesn't mean it's over. The black box is gone. The journal turned to ash one morning on my windowsill without ever being touched. I didn't see it happen, just smelled smoke, turned my head, and it was curling into itself like it had finished its job. But I still wake up at 3:13 a.m. Not from a sound. From a pause. A moment in the night when time feels like it holds its breath. When the air changes just enough to remind me. He's still here, not outside, inside. And some nights, just before that moment passes, I feel something behind my eyes. Like a memory I didn't make. A whisper I didn't hear. A smile I didn't mean. It never says anything. It just waits. Because now I understand. I was never the one who exposed the lie. I was the one who believed it. And belief, like remembering, opens more than doors. It invites them to stay. Forever.